Welcome back to Roto Moto. My name is Donnie, and in this video I will give you 5 riders to look for when you're making your PulpMX fantasy picks for Orlando 2, tips for picking FFLs, weather report, race day schedule, and even a very early look at what my team could be come Saturday. But first, as always, we look at the stats and info from the previous round. We have our lowest player count of the year, down a little over 1,000 players from the opening race of the season. But most of those are unpaid players, as the Champ League is still boasting 7,452. A perfect team would have needed to include 2 52 scores and would have netted 310 points for anyone lucky enough to pick that team. Add in 2 FFLs for 340, but not a likely feat, as Jet Lawrence had a less than 10% FFL pick trend and Osborne even lower with just 0.3%, or about 8 to 10 people. A small uptick in all-stars per team, something I'm blaming entirely on one of the experts using that strategy themselves, up to 2.71. The median championship score was 194, meaning if you scored 195 or more, you did better than half of the paying field. A pretty typical week, about 80% worth of pick trend spent on guys that brought home a 0, made up in a large part of Robert Piazza and his mud boggin Yamaha finally succumbing to the abuse. A second straight week of only 22 riders scoring double, matching the season low. The highest score in the Roto Moto League for the week was Lewis Phillips, 71, but between his lack of profile picture and the fact that Lewis can't even drop me a follow on Twitter, I can't possibly let that ride, so instead H2O gets the spot with 272 points, led by my high handicap hero recommendation from last week, Hunter Schlosser. Benny Wap stays on top for the 4th consecutive week in the championship, now boasting a whopping 57-point lead over second place. I had an amazing 250 class, clocking around top 100 at the end of the first main event, but my 450 class fell apart late, ended up just barely inside the top 500, but I will take it. 243 on the day, trusting the process and chugging along with consistent riders and minimizing my zeros. Obviously, Craig missed the FFL, but I still think he was the best pick if he didn't injure himself in that heat race. The ins and outs are likely not conclusive this week, as the 250 class has a lot of guys recovering from off-season injuries that aren't exactly being transparent about their readiness. I've only listed guys that are actually on the Pulp roster here. Nick Gaines announced this week he will be missing the first round. He's fine. It's actually a medical issue with someone else on his team. Mitchell Falk is out for the season after a broken leg late last month. Pierce Brown and Derek Drake are both unlikely to line up after recovering from significant injuries. They have both been on their bikes but are not expected to be there this weekend. Alex Ray should be back after his short battle with COVID or possibly a false test. We're never really not sure. Max Anstey made the trip to Orlando and is on the entry list and expects to line up, but I would leave him off your team until you actually see him on the track in qualifying. Despite his best effort, Chase Sexton will miss the round and get more seat time before rejoining at Daytona. Justin Brayton suffered a chest injury in a practice crash this week, but there have not been a ton of details released. I've heard he may not line up, but nothing concrete on that one, so check back. And finally, Henry Miller is pushing his debut back just one more race and will instead debut in 2 weeks at Daytona. Just a friendly reminder that Roto Moto is an entirely privateer operation. I research, I write, I record, I edit, I post, I promote every single video entirely by myself, in addition to the cheat sheets, the Twitter, the Instagram. Everything that you see on this thing is entirely me with no outside help at all. If you want to support me and help Roto Moto grow, please check out our website at rotomoto.co. Check out the merch section. We have shirts, beanies, hats, book bags, and a brand new shirt was added recently, the Never Change AMA shirt, which was recently featured on the PulpMX live show, worn by the very handsome Travis Marks. If you are serious about maximizing your PulpMX fantasy scores, please consider subscribing to the Roto Moto Patreon. You will have access to an exclusive podcast every week with an early look at the handicaps, a private Discord server, and most importantly, the enhanced cheat sheet that is stocked full of so much information. It will literally make your head spin, and if you don't have the scratch to support financially, that's okay too. Please hit the little subscribe button right below the video, leave a really productive comment, and share the post on Twitter and Instagram to your friends. All right, on to Orlando 2, but before I get to the picks, friendly reminder that the track layout has changed, or rather, it hasn't changed at all. Due to the weather, the guys at Dirtworks are unable to completely tear down the track and remake it to the layout that was supposed to be for this week. So the layout remains unchanged with just a few tweaked obstacles and sections. This means that what happened last week is a good indicator of what's going to happen this week. I don't have a graphic to show you here, but last week was the worst week for passing in the season, maybe ever, as every single race, heats, LCQs, and mains featured very, very little passing. Only 3 guys that started the heat outside of the top 9 in both classes combined made it through. The top 4 in each LCQ at the start of lap 1, all 4 of those guys made the mains, or rather all 8 of those guys made the mains. The only guys in the main that made significant forward progress are riders that went down early or top guys that were absolutely buried. So we are looking for great starters this weekend and staying away from late bloomers. Keep that in mind for all of your picks, and that will also explain many of the 5 guys I'm going to recommend here. Starting with your 250 All-Star, I have Justin Cooper. He's the clear number 2 in preseason hype after Jeremy Martin, and he's the best starter in the class. He won his opener last season and had rattled off 5 podium finishes, including 4 of the first 5. The only rider to have a better average start in 2020 than Justin have either moved up or they are on the other coast. There is a slight concern about him coming off of an injury, but the 32 is a professional and at this point a veteran. I see a lot of guys wanting to pick J Mart, Marchbanks, and A Mart, but friendly reminder, we have Daytona next week, and if one of those guys has a problem and goes down and ends up being eligible for double points next week, I'm gonna want that guy on my team, so I am staying clear of those 3. Another 250 rider I have for you is Joey Crown. Man, I think the handicappers missed this one big. Again, a great starter. His average start last year was 5th and average finish was 7.5, and 4 gate drops before a practice crash concussion led him to being out for the remainder of the season. With Marchbanks joining the team, I feel like he is getting a little bit overlooked here. I don't think he's a 52 score candidate, but he is going to be solidly in the main and able to bring in a high 30 score. His arena cross experience will serve him well at getting starts and racing on tracks that are tight and tough to pass. The one guy I want you to avoid here is Eli Tomac. The defending champion cannot get off the line, and that is not good enough at this track. He was 11th at the end of the first lap and managed to work his way up to 5th, but that was with Brayton's brake failing, Anderson and Savacci both falling, and Fernandez getting removed due to injury. The only thing Eli has a major strength in his ability to move through the pack, but he was only able to make 3 passes in 25 laps. No reason to gamble on him maybe getting a start here with so many good All-Stars and 26 being your maximum score. Speaking of Dylan Ferrandis, I have my eyes on the 14 as your 450 non-All-Star. He's a 1 handicap, he's an obvious lock for the main, his starts are decent, and although the track may be hard to pass on, we all know Dylan knows how to find space and even make it if needed. His average finish before his DNF last week was 7.3, and he has been in the top 10 in all but 2 with proven podium potential. The 450 class doesn't have a lot of high score potential, so you have to take that upside when it's available, especially a former All-Star with a positive handicap. The high handicap hero of the round given to a rider with a handicap of 10 or more that I think has a realistic chance to score massive points this weekend if you're the type of person that likes to sweat out a little LCQ for a big payout. With the 450 class getting increasingly more difficult with injured riders returning but not leaving, this one is going to be for the deep 250 West. I have my eyes on Carson Brown for the opener at a 10 handicap. The handicappers have 12 guys with single digits to go along with 8 All-Stars. That's 20 riders. That puts the 3 10 handicap guys as being on the bubble for the main event at 21, 22, and 23 respectively. I'm going with Brown because of his history last year. The West was easily the deeper of the coast, and Carson still managed to log 2 top 10s and 3 finishes just outside the top 10 in 7 main events. His only bad finish was a 21st after going down at SLC4, but he was running 12th at that time. If he would have finished there, his average finish last year would have been closer to 11. The FFL, or first to the finish line, is an optional wager where you attempt to guess the rider in each main that reaches the finish line and is the first to start the opening lap. If your selected rider in each class is successful, you will earn 15 extra points for that week's score, but if you guess wrong, you subtract 7. The 250 FFL is kind of a crapshoot. Only 3 guys on the gate had an FFL last season. Justin Cooper nailed one at the Triple Crown in Glendale. Alex Martin led the first lap in Oakland, and Garrett Marchbanks led wire to wire at Daytona. Cooper has the best average starts of these 3 and has to be the favorite here, but with how wacky the other 2 classes have been, it might be in your best interest to just stay away. Zach Osborne scored his first FFL of 2021 last week, becoming the 6th rider to do it in 7 races. Barsha is the only guy with 2, and AC has the best average start but has yet to grab a holy. Much like the 250s, I would probably stay away here, but the numbers favor Barsha, and he also has the most hole shots in the heats as well. As of Friday morning, the weather outside looks better. It is slated to rain on Friday, but the track is obviously covered outside of the start straight. Again, the guys at Dirtworks do exceptional work, so I'm not concerned with their ability to have the track ready for the night show. Race days shows less than 5% chance to rain at any given hour, with sunshine the entire afternoon, which should lead to good racing come night show. The schedule is the same as last week. Tune in with Blair and Hubbard for Race Day Live at 1:30 p.m. local time for a 3.5-hour pre-show program. Patreon backers can expect the enhanced cheat sheet at 6 p.m. delivered right on Patreon. The rest of you will have access to the basic cheat sheet at 6:30 p.m. about an hour before the gate drops at 7:30. The race will be broadcast live on both NBCSN and Peacock app starting at 7:30, and don't forget to tune in right back here on YouTube for the Roto Moto post-race program beginning immediately following the 450 podium interviews, starting at about 10:30 Eastern Time. My Thursday team looks like this. I have Justin Cooper at my all-star spot, Seth Hammaker at an 8 handicap. He is a true rookie. I do not like picking rookies, but here is my piece. He went 1-1 at Monster Cup in the amateur all-star class and has the most value of all of the rookies. Joseph Crown at a 7 with a lot upside, and currently I have Carson Brown penciled in as my high handicap hero with that 10. On the 450 side, I have Malcolm Stewart at the 8 handicap. I like Marv here too, but Mookie has been getting better starts and staying off the ground, and I would like to rather save Marv for Daytona. Dylan Ferrandis with a 1 handicap. Joey Savacci got a little bump up to a 2, and that tiny little bump in value I think makes him more appetizing, especially with Brayton possibly out and no return on Sexton yet. Also on the bounce back, Brock Tickle has a 7 handicap, which is the highest increase of any guy on the gate, and you have to take those big bounce backs when you can. Don't forget to follow at RotoMoto on both Twitter and Instagram for qualifying insights, injury reports, updates on the weather, updates on the schedule, stats and banners the race day goes on, but most importantly, the fantasy cheat sheets that will combine your handicaps, your qualifying positions, and the heat races all in one easy-to-read form. And if you want even more help making those big picks on race day, be sure to subscribe to Roto Moto on Patreon so that you have access to the enhanced cheat sheet that comes out a full 30 minutes earlier than the cheat sheet that hits Twitter and Instagram. I just want to give a shout out to the Patreon supporters that we have on board already. This channel is made possible by good people like Trevor, Chad H, and B Hood. Thank you so much for watching Roto Moto. My name is Donnie, and I will see you on race day.